What is the best thing about being Donald Trump right now?
Well, other than the fact I'm married, okay?
Right.
And I'm very happily married. I have a great wife. But if I weren't married, I'd be able to get all of the girls I want, except for possibly Robin.
Do you think you could now be banging 24-year-olds?
Oh, absolutely. I have no trouble.
Would you do it?
I have no problem.
Yeah, do you have an age limit, or would you?
No, I have no age. I mean, I have an age. I don't want to be
the
like
upper bracket,
Foley with 12-year-olds.
Thanks for clarifying, I guess. Last week, Wall Street Journal released an explosive report on President Donald Trump and one Jeffrey Epstein. Since then, a number of very creepy clips have resurfaced, like the one you just saw with Howard Stern. It was recorded in 2006. And we do have more where that came from. But first, Cenk, any of the stories really surprise you at all? I mean, Trump's been at this for years.
Yeah, so Trump's a well-known pervert, and we've covered him now, unfortunately, for over a decade on this. And so some of the clips, some of you'll go, oh yeah, remember when he did that? And but they're very disturbing nonetheless, as you'll see in a minute. In this particular case, look, guys, I have mixed reaction to this. On the one hand, saying like they're joking, they're clearly joking around, and I think taking the jokes that people made decades ago overly seriously is not necessarily the right way to go. They're talking about a specific scandal about Tim Foley, that's a congressman at the time, and he said not as young as the 12-year-olds, etc. When Robin, by the way, was clarifying, she meant the upper age limit, but he immediately thought of the lower age limit and gave the number of definitely not 12. So as I give you the context of joking, blah, 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 Foley, nevertheless, like the idea that the number 12 would pop into your head is disturbing, right? Like that shouldn't be anywhere near the number that pops into your head. So, and there's a lot of those. If you add them all up, it begins to draw a picture for you. At the same time, I know what the MAGA guys say, and they, as upset they are as they are about Epstein Files not being released, etc. They're used to making 1,000 excuses for Trump, so they'll find a way to say, well, that's hearsay, and he's over there is joking, and that one is kind of, but not really, etc. And to me, Sharon, what's most important is, yes, but like whether Trump is on the list or not, I really don't know. Whether Trump was great friends with Epstein, knew that he liked girls on the younger side, as Trump said, that we know with absolute certainty, right? So then what conclusion do you draw from that? That's very difficult, because I think that there's a couple of possible conclusions. But let's give you more of the stuff from the past.
Difficult, but not stopping people. 1992. Let's go there. Entertainment Tonight filmed Trump interacting with a group of young girls. When Trump asked, "You're going up the escalator?" a child's voice could be heard saying, "Yes." Trump then responded with, "I'm gonna be dating her in 10 years. Can you believe it? Media fight with that one. 1991, Trump judged the Look of the Year modeling competition, which featured models as young as 14. Competition was run by John Casablancas. Some of the men in his orbit used the contest to engage in sexual relationships with vulnerable young models. Some of these allegations amount to sexual harassment, abuse, exploitation of teenage girls. Others, they're more accurately described as rape. We'll tell you what we mean. No such allegations have been leveled against Trump. Important to say that, but his close involvement in the contest does raise questions for the president. Did he know that Casablancas and others were sleeping with contestants? Why would a man in his 40s whose main business was real estate development want to host a beauty contest for teenage girls? The Guardian. Over the weekend, New York Times reported on a troubling incident from 1992 when Trump hosted a party at Mar-a-Lago for young women in a so-called calendar girl competition. Epstein was the only other guest. That's according to George Horanay, a Florida-based businessman who arranged the event. Honoray's then girlfriend and business partner, Jill Harth, later accused Trump of sexual misconduct on the night of the party. In a lawsuit, Harth said Trump took her into a bedroom and forcibly kissed and fondled her and restrained her from leaving. She also said that a 22-year-old contestant told her that Trump later that night crawled into her bed uninvited. Again, the New York Times with this reporting. Also worth noting that Virginia Giuffre was working at Mar-a-Lago when Ghislaine Maxwell first approached her. Giuffre stated that Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell trafficked her to Prince Andrew and other powerful men. She committed suicide earlier this year. Maria Farmer was another woman who states she was abused by Epstein and Maxwell. She had an encounter with Donald Trump in 1995. Goes like this. Late one night, Epstein unexpectedly called her to his offices in a luxury building in Manhattan, and she arrived in running shorts. Trump then arrived wearing a business suit, started to hover over her. She said she told the authorities. Farmer said she recalled feeling scared as Trump stared at her bare legs. Then Epstein entered the room and she recalled him saying to Trump, quote, no, she's not here for you. The two men left the room. Farmer said she could hear Trump commenting that he thought Farmer was 16. 1993, Epstein was dating a woman named Stacey Williams. That year, Epstein and Williams visited Trump Tower to say hello to Trump. Here's what Williams says happened next. As Trump and Epstein conversed, Trump pulled Williams toward him, touched her breast, waist, and buttocks, she said. It was like an octopus, she said. I was utterly confused and frozen. Look, this is a lot of stories, Cenk, over a period of decades. Different women who we have no reason to believe they all knew each other and concocted these stories. Pattern and practice, including one lawsuit that's already, E. Jean Carroll, I believe it is, reached conclusion where she said some of these same things about instant groping, forced kissing, the whole thing. So what do we make of this? What place does this hold in the larger context of what's being discussed right now in the media and bloggers and everywhere?
Yeah, so there's layers to this, right? So is Donald Trump a pervert? Yes, obviously. So like, I can give you a number of examples. And one of the ones is the teen contest that we've been talking about, the pageant. He bragged about how he could just go into the locker room anytime because he owned the pageant and he might catch them naked. They were as young as 14. That's super weird. So I guess you could say maybe he was trying to ogle the 18 and 19-year-olds and not the 14 and 15-year-olds, but that's a tough thing to hang your hat on. And so look, you can say it's in dispute. That one's not in dispute, okay? I know for everything related to Trump, everyone will dispute every part of it. We're trying to be super fair here and tell you what's real and not real. Okay, so you've got that. You've got slews of other, come on guys, you're gonna debate this. And you saw the video that Entertainment Tonight brought back. We covered that when it happened. I mean, he's looking at a girl who's tiny and saying can't wait to date her when she's 10. How does that cross his, I'm sorry, not when she's 10 years later. How does that even cross his mind when looking at like this tiny girl? It's uncomfortable. Does he like girls that are young, on the younger side? Well, okay, depends on what you mean by younger, but younger when he's in his 50s, 60s, 70s, and he's talking about a 24-year-old girl, definitely. The 22-year-old girl says he crawled in bed with her and touched her. He's got the teen pageant thing. He's got the 16-year-old with the nice legs and all that stuff, or somebody he thought was 16. So when you put that together, does he like girls that are younger? Well, yes, of course, he said it, right? Girls that are 30, 40 years younger. And you could say if they're 24, man, that's no big deal. I get it, right? Then the question becomes, well, whether you agree with that or not, I get it, right? Then the question becomes, how young? Well, that's a pretty important question, but has he sexually assaulted women before? Well, I mean, you could say, number one, we have like literal evidence from a trial. The jury in the E. Jean Carroll case found him to be at fault. Yeah, he did it. He's the one who sexually assaulted her, according to the jury's conclusions, and that's why he owed her money, etc. So now look, again, they'll find excuses. No, it's in New York, it's this, it's that, I don't agree with it. How do you disagree with Trump on tape, in the Access Hollywood tape saying, yeah, when you're famous, you just grab them by the genitalia and they let you do it. It's overwhelming, guys. I mean, if you're pretending that Donald Trump isn't a pervert, doesn't grab women without their permission, and doesn't like them, generally speaking, young, you couldn't die on that hill, but the rest of us think you sound a little crazy, right? So, okay, now that doesn't mean that he did the Epstein thing. It doesn't mean he did anything illegal. So we don't know if he slept with someone under the age of 18. We just don't know that, right? On the other hand, if you say you definitely know that, well, that's just not true. We definitely don't know that, right? So, okay, now some people can look at that and go, I've heard enough. I can't stand this guy. And so is it believable that he'd be in the Epstein files? Well, at a minimum, it's certainly believable, right? I mean, given that they were friends for 2 decades, Trump said he was a terrific friend. Epstein said Trump was his best friend for a while, okay? So it's certainly believable. Do we know definitively that he's in the files? No, we don't, okay? And why don't we know? Oh, right, because Trump won't release them. Well, that's pretty convenient. I mean, he's the president, he could release it today. And if you're not in the files, by the way, I'd be pretty antsy to release them. If everybody was talking about how I'm in the files and I'm the president, I'm releasing them, give me 2 days to redact and they're out the door, right? And he had a whole first term to release them and chose not to. So all of that adds up to a pretty bad story, but nothing that we can say definitively broke the law, right? Now, last thing on it, Sharon, for me is, look, I think the intelligence agencies are in a panic to divert attention from themselves. And so there's a lot of leaks happening right now. And so now we're pointing to circumstantial evidence, as we just showed you, in Donald Trump's past. So is it conceivable that Trump's on the list and did something with the, of course. Is it also conceivable that he was great friends with Epstein, likes him young, but didn't break the law and they don't have him on tape or any other evidence? And it's the intelligence agencies just kind of leaking this stuff one by one so that people get distracted towards Trump and forget about the intelligence agencies? That's not impossible either. So I don't know. What do you think?
I tend to agree with you, just because there's a lot of smoke there, and just a way that, look, the men in my orbit don't say things like that. The men in my orbit don't sit on the couch next to Joy Behar on The View with their daughter next to them and make comments about if she wasn't my daughter. And they certainly don't sexualize a 10-year-old. I mean, it's just, the men I know don't do that. So I don't really have that reference point other than what's in the news over a course of time. So I tend to agree with you, but nobody knows for sure unless perhaps you were unfortunately a victim, okay? I've not heard that related to Epstein and Trump, so we just don't know. I think it's until we know, we know. I'll leave the last word to you, but this next story I will say, Jen, might have been written for you. I don't know.
Yeah. All right. So before we get there, I am curious about the poll in the live chat. Shows live Monday through Friday at 6 o'clock, of course, and be part of the show. Will we ever find out if Trump was on Epstein's client list? And that's interesting. 46% saying that we will. Really? 54% saying no. I think I'd go no, but I'm not sure either. And so that's interesting. And to your point, Sharon, about men in your orbit, I'm a guy. I played football, I played rugby, I've been around a lot of guys and a lot of locker room talk and a lot of really racy stuff, right? So it's not like, I'm shy about it, I've never heard it. Oh golly gee, right? Have I heard, so I've heard guys joking about women a billion times, right? Have I heard them talking about, oh yeah, that 12-year-old? No, never, literally never. And I mean, you can go and you can give a time reference, like back in the 1980s, was it different? No, it wasn't different. Have I ever heard people joking about sleeping with their own daughter? No, never. And I mean, maybe others do. Maybe others joke around about 13, 14-year-old girls and sleeping with their daughter, but I've never heard it, and I've heard a lot. So, I mean, they appear to be at a minimum peas in a pod, Epstein and Trump, but we don't know how young it goes for Trump. Maybe it just goes to 18 and not 17. Again, if that's the thing you're hanging your hat on, not a winning strategy in my opinion. Although, last thing on it, just macro, there's the Epstein Files. Who actually did it? Will we ever prosecute anyone? Will it ever come out? The second issue is about Trump. And like whether Donald Trump is a good moral leader for the country, that jury came in a long time ago, right? So if you're still holding on to him being moral and decent and wonderful, okay, I mean, you're the last of the Mohicans. You guys can get together with the guys who still think Biden is young and have a grand old time. But the rest of us, that jury has definitely come in, right? Yeah. The legal or illegal, that hasn't come in.
Yeah, I also think that, look, people are different. And just because someone colors outside the lines doesn't necessarily mean that, well, they're not normal. But Trump's not normal. And he's socially inappropriate at best, okay, with the things he says, because I think most people don't have a reference point for it. I once looked, this was recently, at my daughter. She has these beautiful little feet, and she always has since she was a baby. I said it in front of one of our long-standing family friends who's been in politics, so he's heard it all. And he said, I'm out of this conversation, okay? I don't want anything. I was just saying my daughter has beautiful feet and wanted no part of it, okay? That's not Donald Trump, okay? World of his own. Okay?
He might be like, hey, where can I look at him?
Yeah.
Like that's the type of thing Trump would do. Jesus, man. Every time you ring the bell below, an angel gets his wings. Totally not true, but it does keep you updated on our live shows.